Welcome back to the Castaway Consultants, where we teach future Survivor players how to play the game by criticizing what past players have done. It's another special episode of our Rewind series, where we're going to be talking about the post-merge of Survivor All-Stars, which is definitely my favorite season. I'm Ryan Stacy, your resident superfan who knows everything there is to know about Survivor and who's always right about everything Survivor-related. I'm joined by my two fabulous co-hosts,
Derek Kupacek, and as is with these Rewind series, I have not seen any of these old series. Just because I'm well entrenched in Survivor mythos and I know a lot of spoilers here or there. With this particular season, I did happen to know who won the season and who got second, but everything else in there and the journey along the way had nothing. Had no clue what was going on there, so hopefully I can offer a fresh perspective on everything from the beginning of this merge all the way up to the finale, and then after that, obviously, I knew the final two.
Yeah, and I'm Josh Wessler. If you've listened to any of our other podcasts, you know the deal. I'm somewhere in the middle. I watched almost every single season except for now 3, and this particular one I watched. I actually found close to the date of when I actually watched this. I watched this in July of 2015, almost exactly 5 years ago, which is just crazy to me to think that I watched this 5 years ago. But I'm our memorability correspondent. I don't know.
memorability expert.
Yes.
You've taken the dementia test.
I have not. I've taken different memorizing tests, so there's that.
Can you identify an elephant?
No.
Oh, that's fair.
Frank could.
This isn't Survivor Africa, so it doesn't matter.
That's a water buffalo.
But I don't watch every single episode. This time around, I watched the premiere, the merge episode, and the finale, just as a good way to jog my memory on some of this stuff. But I like to throw in some nice commentary here or there.
Yes. So the goal of this podcast is we rewatch Survivor so you don't have to. There's a lot of Survivor. There's 40 seasons now. Who knows if there'll be any more ever. But
sad day. We did just find out that we're almost certainly not getting it this fall. It was removed from CBS's schedule.
So now you have plenty of time to go and rewatch all of Survivor, rendering us useless. But if you don't want to go rewatch all of it, we're going to tell you whether each particular season and parts of seasons are must-watch Survivor or not. So before we get into any spoilers, gentlemen, we've now finished Survivor All-Stars Season 8. Is this must-watch Survivor?
I have gone back and forth on this, and maybe a hot take, certainly for you, but I'm going to say that this is. I think this is must-watch Survivor, if not for the Hallmark movie. I think this is lesson number 1, first and foremost, on jury management. I don't agree with how everything shakes out at the end of this season, spoiler alert, but when you're playing, you never know if you're going to end up with people who think, behave, and act like this. So if you want to watch the poster child, I mean, this is the equivalent to watching the motorcyclist crash in your motorcycle safety course or seeing the gun wound in your firearm safety course. You need to see how bad a jury can fall to know what you might be dealing with. And for that reason alone, I think this is must-watch Survivor from an understanding how the game can shake out. And for that reason only, it is.
Yeah, I agree. It's pretty close to the same for my thoughts as the pre-merge, where it's not like the most entertaining season, but you get a lot of the Survivor background and a lot of just the whole, as Derek likes to say, the mythos of Survivor that happens here. You have 2 of the closest people to ever come together on Survivor, along with a great lesson in jury management, and probably one of the most bitter juries to ever come across the game. So I do think it is. I know that it's not going to be the best to watch, but it's still good to watch.
If you like being miserable, go ahead and watch this season. This is not must-watch Survivor, and in my opinion, if you were going to go out and play on season 41, if you were to watch every single season except one, this is the one you skipped. I think this is I'm not saying it's the worst season, I'm saying it's the least relevant. There's almost nothing here besides maybe jury management to take from this season, and even that, kind of an asterisk because all of these people knew each other. So, All-Star seasons. Maybe if you're going on to an All-Star season, you want to watch it. Sure, but out of all the All-Star seasons, I also think that this one is the least relevant because people don't act like this anymore. This is kind of the template for, how our All-Star season is going to go in the future. And a lot of people are thinking, we're all going to be good friends and we're going to have a good time. And that's not what happened. People are here to play the game. And every subsequent All-Star seasons, people know that. So All Stars isn't relevant anymore, and I think it's the least relevant Survivor season. Also, it sucks to watch. Is it the worst season to date? No. To spoil my rankings a little bit, it is not going to be at the bottom of my list, but it's not a good season. There's not much here worth watching unless you like watching actual friendships fall apart and people being genuinely furious and angry and hurt with each other, which I don't enjoy. I know some people get their kicks off that in reality TV, but I'm the weirdo and I don't enjoy that. So no, All Stars sucks.
We're all entitled to our own opinion.
Yeah, and maybe it's because you talked me down so far on my expectations. You know, Ryan, you and I have been watching Game of Thrones together, and I have sufficiently talked down your expectations for season 7 and 8, and we're halfway through 7 now, and you're enjoying 7.
Yes, I am enjoying 7.
But you talked me so down on All Stars that, I mean, I was expecting, just short of like a death in the family, like, or something. I didn't know what was going to happen here. I thought this was perfectly average Survivor overall with a great lesson on jury management. And I don't want to say like I get my kicks from watching actual friendships fall apart, but I do find it comical that people went onto a game that is all about backstabbing and social relationships and seeing how bitter they could be when they lost. I've seen a lot of Survivor now, and I have never seen anything like this, and I don't know if we're going to see something like it again. And to your point, maybe it's not relevant going forward, but I mean, I have my motorcycle license. I had to watch somebody crash their motorcycle in the mountains. I'm not riding my motorcycle in the mountains, but they still felt the need to show me that. And that's why I think it's must watch. But that being said, I see exactly where you're coming from, and I have to respect your opinion on that.
So, Derek and Josh are both saying to go watch this season if you haven't watched it yet, or if you need a refresher to go watch it. I disagree, but that choice is up to you. But ultimately, spoilers from here on out, so make your decision now, folks, because we will be spoiling the rest of this season in 3, 2, 1. Amber wins.
Nobody saw that coming.
So before we get into anything more, let's just quick refresher of the cast. We have 9 people left in the game. Go ahead and say who they are real quick. Returning from Survivor Africa, we have Lex Vandenberg. From Survivor Marquesas, we have Kathy Vabrick O'Brien. From Survivor Thailand, we have Xian Huang. From the Australian Outback, we have Alicia Calloway. From Survivor Africa, we got Big Tom Buchanan. From Survivor Marquesas, we got Boston Rob Mariano. And then from Survivor Australia, we have Amber Burkich. And then from Survivor Pearl Islands, we have good old Rupert Bonham. And finally, Survivor Borneo, Jenna Lewis. That's our 9. Are any of these 9 people we wanted to see make the final 9? I don't know, maybe one of them?
Maybe.
Not a thrilling cast for the All-Stars. Not any, if we'd reversed the boot order on this season, man, what a season it is. Tina Rudy, final 2. Oh, my God. And then we have Jenna Maraska and Rob Cesternino in the final 4. Richard Hatch gets 5th. What a season. But that's not what we get. Instead, we're stuck with this. But that is our cast. Quick reminder of our winner picks at this point. Derek, your winner pick was?
Lex. But I do believe I said in the podcast that going into the merge, if I could switch it, I would have switched it to Boston Rob. But as of right now, officially, Lex.
Josh, your winner pick is?
Same as my original, Boston Rob.
Yeah, still got Boston Rob. Now, my original winner pick was Rob Cesternino. He's long gone from this game, so I switched over to Rupert, who's still in the game. And I'm not upset with that pick at this point. I think it's fine. I would switch to Boston Rob, but I think the Rupert is still a solid pick at this point.
It's fine.
All right, anything else before we jump into these episodes?
Now let's go.
Nope.
So we kick things off with episode 11, Anger, Tears, and Chaos. So much fun.
Yeah, sounds great.
So right off the bat, we have Rob and Alicia making a side alliance. And Rob, at this point, has an alliance with everybody on his tribe. Good and bad things are that. This is going to bite Rob in the butt at Final Trouble Council. Maybe if he didn't make this alliance with Alicia might have voted for him at the end. But she also might have turned on him on the way. So it's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
Yeah, we usually preach, make as many final deals as you can. At a certain point, you probably should stop doing that. Maybe only make a few. Boston Rob here just does with everyone, which means that you're probably going to end up having people hate you.
I want to triple down now and say, if someone comes to you with a Final 2 alliance, you always say yes. And we don't know the exact situation that put Alicia and Rob into this situation, other than the fact that, Amber's not there, right? So, Rob has got to cover his own butt. So I am all for making alliances with everybody, and I think, especially in modern Survivor, with the way the game has evolved, people aren't going to be bitter like this. Don't play as though you're going to have a jury like this. You just need to be aware of it so that you can try and be more intricate.
Everyone should expect Amber to be gone.
Yes.
Because that's ridiculous. It couldn't possibly be anybody other than Amber, right? And there's no way Jerry's going home. So Rob's got to cover himself, and it's just going to bite him a little bit.
Yeah, but here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with waiting until after you find out who's gone.
Suppose.
I feel like that's the easy move here is just, yeah, you can probably end up doing this. Wait a day.
So Rupert's going to win the reward challenge, and it was an individual reward, but we didn't get the merge yet. And he's going to take Amber and Jenna, because he could take 2 people from any tribe on his reward. He takes Amber and Jenna on spot trip with him. Pretty good picks. Jenna's his closest ally ever, and, you know, you got to bring Amber back in to make sure she's okay after her terrifying ordeal on the other tribe.
Yeah.
I think they're fine picks.
It's fine.
And finally, we get our merge. Drawn it out, jeez. And they send him back to live on Saboga Beach. And Rupert's just terrible shelters.
He's just got to sit there and stare at his past failures. Like,
And so Rob and Lex, they're like talking about like, hey, you're going to keep your word, right? And Rob's like, yeah, I'm going to keep my word. And then in the confessional...
If I can.
Well, he'll say that later, but in confessional, he's like, what? You thought I was serious? It's a funny confessional, but dude, you were totally serious. You were so full of crap.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, like, if you want to, we'll get into the whole who's a hypocrite on this season later. Rob is a giant hypocrite on this season.
I don't know if he's a hypocrite, but he's definitely a liar.
Well, yeah.
And, you know, I don't like in confessionals when you lie to the audience. Come on, just tell us in what's going on. This should be the confessional. Yeah, I was pretty desperate for Lex to, like, keep Amber in the game, but I can't keep him. That's tough breaks. I didn't love the whole you dumbass kind of confessional, because I'm like, that's not what happened.
Yeah.
And anybody watching it would agree, I think, with me.
that's the problem with trying to be one character in the game and one character to the confessional. Rob just wanted to be the Godfather in the confessionals. And I mean, it plays to his legacy well, but you can definitely find moments in there where it's like, there's a continuity error here. This doesn't make a ton of sense. But I'm with you, Ryan. Like, just be honest and use it as a therapy session. Be like, I told Lex that, I'll try and do him right. And maybe I will, maybe I won't.
That's a good confessional. It's a good one. That'd be a good confessional. Amber feels a little bit more worse about this, and she kind of wants to take out Jenna or Rupert. But guess what, Amber? You made an alliance to them, too. So, you're kind of screwed either way.
Whoops.
Whoops, indeed. But the big thing I think we have to remember here is Lex and Big Tom played together, and no matter what they say, they 100% have an alliance. They asked Big Tom about it, or Rob asked Big Tom about it at the reunion show, and Tom did not deny it.
He did not answer.
Yeah,
he
avoided
answered something completely different.
And, they all talked on the phone. So I'm sure what happened is that they had an agreement on the phone, and in Tom's mind, it's like, yeah, I had an agreement on the phone, not necessarily in the game, but you had a pre-game alliance, didn't you, Tom? Had you ended up on the same tribe with Lex earlier, you would have been working together. And it's fine. That's 100% fine for Tom to do. But he's a liar, and he's trying to claim otherwise, and I don't believe him for a second.
Yeah, and if we get past this episode, there's a very, very, very high chance that they're just going to pair up together
And take out Rob.
Yeah.
And why shouldn't they?
Even if it's not immediate, it's gonna come down the line.
And we're going to talk about this a lot. I don't want to brand anybody like a liar, because a liar establishes to me like a pattern of behavior, but in Survivor, you need to lie. And if you have to say, no, I don't have an alliance with Lex, that's perfectly fine. And it can be complete crap. And again, that's perfectly fine. But if you got before that, that is also fine. No sour grapes. And I do think that later on we're going to see that with Big Tom and Lex.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with lying.
Yeah.
It's being a hypocrite about it is where I have a problem.
Yes, absolutely. That's where just own it up.
And I feel like both Lex and Tom by the end of this thing are huge hypocrites. But we'll get into that. So we have the Underwater Immunity Challenge, which was the very first immunity challenge they ran in Survivor Borneo after the merge, which is kind of fun. And one man and one woman are going to win each. Kathy wins for the women. And for the men, it comes down to Rob and Lex, and it's so close. And everything changes if Lex wins this challenge. Everything changes. Mm-hmm. But Rob wins. It sets us down this path. I'm kind of sad. I kind of wish Lex had won.
Do you think, very interesting.
Do you think Rob goes home?
No. I think Rob chums up to Lex. All good in the hood. Jeanne?
Maybe.
Yeah. But both Kathy and Rob win. They're safe. Marquesa in the house. And here we go. Probably the most iconic moment of the season, besides Richard and Sue. Rob tells Lex he's going home. He pulls the old Lex move and tells him he's going home. Maybe you should have blindsided him, dude. But it's ugly. It's uncomfortable. Lex is pissed. Rob is defensive. Rob's like, Lex, let me be clear. I said if I could help you, I would, but I cannot. And it's like, nah, that's not what you said. You said
if you help me, I'll help you. Like it's there were no conditions when this agreement, in quote unquote agreement, was made.
Let's be clear. Rob is stabbing Lex in the back. Is it a jerk move? Yes. Is it totally fair in the context of Survivor? Yes. Could Rob have handled it better? Yes. Does Lex have the right to be mad? Yes. Does Lex hold a grudge for too long? Yes. This sucks.
Well, and I want to amend one part of what you said. Boston Rob does not stab Lex in the back. He stabs him in the front.
That's fair.
Just stare. He looks him in the eyes. Like, this is no et tu, Brute, as Big Tom will so eloquently profess later in this season. This is very much like, no, I do respect you enough to tell you beforehand that you're going home. Yeah, I think that maybe a blindside would have been better here. And honestly, if you're thinking jury management, I don't remember how many votes Lex had, but like Boston Rob, if you're sure of your numbers, you could cast your vote for someone else, thereby keeping your alliance, like I can help you if I can, but it wouldn't have mattered, and you knew that. There are ways to manipulate this, but I think the way he did it almost tried to salvage the friendship and somehow made it worse, which makes me think maybe less of Lex in this whole situation, but we, again, get less than 1% of 1%, and we all know Rob can be a pretty confrontational guy, and I want to know if we maybe didn't see the worst of it.
Possible.
But we can't read into that anymore. I agree with everything else that you said. I mean, yeah.
Lex has done this to almost everyone he's ever voted out.
And Jeff was so ready at the reunion show. Ethan, Colby, Jerry, you did it to all of them. What's the difference? And Richard Hass was like, yeah, Lex, what's the difference?
And, you know, I could see where he's going from, because he's going to say there was no agreement with Colby. There was no agreement with Ethan. Okay, fine. There was an agreement with Jerry. Lex is a hypocrite. And he did this to Jerry, and Rob's doing it to him. Screw you, Lex. Honestly, I've lost all respect for Lex, I think. I don't ever want to see him play again because I think he's a crybaby. Get off my TV.
I don't feel that way about him. I felt like he's going to handle the situation very poorly. We're all human. We all make mistakes. But you really, if you're going to go on Survivor, you need to know that these things can happen. I mean, Lex is a very well-spoken, eloquent narrator. I mean, he's up there with Andrew Savage in the way that he can construct a sentence and turn a phrase and make it good for TV. If he could just like handle this after portion better, I would love to have him around again. But
it's a big if.
It is a big if.
And I want to go back to when he voted out Ethan. Like, you know, it's easy to win with grace. Can you lose with grace? And guess what, Lex? You didn't lose with grace.
That I was thinking about that when he got voted out. I almost wonder if that's why they showed that, because he doesn't lose with grace.
Lex is a naive hypocrite.
Yeah, and everyone really just values different things when they're in the game. It's all just comes down to how far is too far, and basically Lex just thought that was too far. So,
and I think he did the same thing to Jerry.
Yeah.
So I think he can cry a river.
My big thing about, I guess, Lex kind of high-horsing Boston Rob here, when they were becoming good friends outside of the game, I can understand why Lex would get a call for All-Stars. There was really not much of a reason for Boston Rob to get a call for All-Stars at all. So why are you offended at the fact that they made it sound like Rob has invested all of this time into these relationships outside the game just so he could stab everyone back in the game, when there was far from a guarantee that Rob would ever come back? I think that speaks more to his true character, that he's going to talk on the phone with you every night for as long as he does and not have been a high-profile player his season, really. I mean, he was first boot on Emerge and wasn't on the jury. We never hear from him again. He shouldn't have been on this season. I'm glad he was, but it's just, there's so much to read into it, and it does hurt, and that's why it's a good lesson in jury management, because these types of behaviors exist.
If you're going to behave like Lex is, once you get voted out, please don't go on Survivor. That's what I think.
It's fair.
Yeah, Lex tries to get the wall, and I really can't stand him anymore. Especially the rest of the season. He sucks. Anyway, let's move on. Kathy does consider giving Lex her immunity necklace. That's a bad move.
That would be a bad move, considering she was public enemy number 2 at this point.
Had she done it, she would have gone home.
Yes.
She's not going to do it. It's the right move.
Made for great TV, though.
So we're going to go to Tribal Council, and everyone knows Lex is going home. So we're going to get 7 votes for Lex, 2 votes for Amber. Even Sheehan's like, yeah, that's a lost cause. Goodbye.
Sure, right move.
And as much as the hurt feelings and everything there sucks to see, getting rid of Lex is the right move.
Oh, it absolutely
You
is.
got to break up Lex and Tom. You got to.
Anytime you can remove ambiguity between relationships of members of your alliance, you have to do that, especially if the guy or girl that you're voting off happens to be the figurehead of the opposing alliance, whatever line is drawn. Lex is the right move.
Would there be any issue with getting out like a Big Tom here? Because you can break up that previous relationship without just being a massive liar straight to Lex's face, and then after that one vote, maybe Lex takes it a little bit better.
Rupert, Jenna, and Alicia might not like that.
And
Well, people aren't gonna
True.
like a vote no matter what. So
well, and the other part is, what if Boston Rob goes up to Lex and says, "All right, I can save you, but Big Tom's got to go."
What does Lex do?
Yeah, does Lex stand his ground and dig his heels in? I think there's a strong argument that he may have. I mean,
and there's your out. Is I gave you an alternative, and you weren't
Sure.
interested, so I had no choice.
So maybe Lex goes to Tom and puts something else together.
True.
right, and that's why ultimately I think it's the right move just to target Lex from the beginning. Don't waver, especially at this critical and volatile time right after the merge. If you can draw a line and you're on the right side of it, absolutely go with it. But that being said, maybe in a more modern and more strategic and less emotional season of Survivor, you can go entertain these conversations with everybody.
Totally.
Bottom line is we shouldn't be here in the first place because Lex made the wrong move in the last episode by keeping Amber.
Very much so. We're going to lose Lex, first member of the jury. Josh, who do you think is the best player of the episode?
I really wanted to give it to Rob, but I couldn't just because he does the dirty work and looks really bad in the process. So I'm going to give it to Amber.
I have Alicia, just because she's on the right side of the vote. She doesn't create any sort of bad blood and isn't in a precarious situation, and makes an alliance with Rob that, at least from our perspective as an audience, looks really good on paper and makes a lot of sense going forward. So I said Alicia as my best.
I'm in a complete agreement with you, Derek. I think it's Alicia. She makes the alliance with Rob. She eliminates Lex. It really couldn't have gone any better for her.
Yes.
All right, Josh.
Fine.
But who do you got for worst player then?
Kathy.
Oh.
Basically because only remaining person, or not only remaining person, but a very easy person to go for next. She's on the wrong side of a move. Again, that was more of a result that happened in a previous episode. But now that Lex is out, it's almost certainly going to be her unless something crazy happens.
I have Boston Rob, because I don't think the people in the Minority Alliance played poorly this episode. I think they did it last episode. Again, they made their beds last episode. Kathy won immunity, which removed all ambiguity for her leaving. Sheehan ended up on the right side of the vote because she knew it was a lost cause, and at least she's trying to integrate. But like we said with, like you said a second ago, Rob did the dirty work. Rob lost a jury vote.
At least one.
At least one.
At least one jury vote, and it's the beginning of this cascading bitterness, the crumbling of the lie tower, that I think is going to ultimately haunt Rob the rest of the game. I'm not saying that his bet is made here. There's still time, but he's the only one who comes out of this looking bad.
Yeah, he made the right move, but the way he did it was bad. He shouldn't have told Lex. Just his general behavior. It really hurt his chances to win, so I think it's definitely Rob. Screw you, Josh.
Fine. I didn't think it was terrible. I think he managed it terribly, but I think that he did what he had to do.
So, Derek, you lost your winner pick.
And I am so happy that it happened now. You knew it was coming. And as soon as he kept Amber and got rid of Jerry, I was like, oh boy. So, new winner pick, even though it sounds hypocritical because I just said he lost a jury vote, Boston Rob. He's got connections and bridges everywhere. He's in the Majority Alliance, who is made up of, original Shapira and a couple Saboga that have been with them for a long time. There's no reason to think they're going to break up, especially when one of your Saboga members is Rupert. He's in a good spot. He's in a good spot going forward. So it's got to be Rob.
Okay. That's fair.
So episode 12 is a thoughtful gesture or a deceptive plan. And half of this episode is the reward/immunity challenge. So how it works is they run the first half of the challenge in teams, and the winning foursome get to go on and compete in the immunity challenge, which Rob ends up winning. So he gives up his video from home so everyone can read letters from home to try and probably save a little bit of face after what happened last time. Try and patch things up a little bit. That's a good move.
There's really no good way to follow that up. But yeah, this is about as good as he could have hoped for in the game of Survivor.
Basically, here you try to make sure that you only lost one jury vote.
Yeah.
In the process. There's a lot of game left, so you might as well start now.
Yeah. It's what can you do? So Rob tries to patch things up with Kathy, but Kathy's like gonna go and get Sheehan, and they're gonna try and pull over Alicia and Tom to try and make a move. You can't give up. You gotta keep trying.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's not gonna work.
It's not going to work.
We're going to go to tribal council. Yeah, it is that fast of an episode.
There's really nothing else, folks.
It's going to be 6 votes for Kathy, 2 votes for Amber. And one thing to note was this took place over one day. They didn't have the typical 3-day. It was the next day. It was a 1-day episode. 6 votes for Kathy, 2 votes for Amber. Kathy and Shan vote for Amber. Tom and Alicia said they were on board, and they weren't. Kathy's the right move.
Yep.
Take out the next biggest threat in the minority.
Especially one that's trying to start more trouble. If you can eliminate someone who is going to scramble while your alliance is still strong, you should do that.
Kathy's a better player than Sheehan.
Yeah, just historically
speaking, absolutely.
Seen it in previous seasons for sure.
Yep.
This is a no-brainer.
Easy. For best play of the episode, I had Boston Rob. He won immunity. He gave up his reward. He tried to patch things up with Kathy, but still eliminated her. So, pretty good episode for Rob.
Yeah, it's Rob. And again, there's really not much else to this episode.
Yeah.
So the only person that we really see anything good from is Rob. Other than Kathy, who tries to scramble, which is always good to see, but doesn't work, so can't give it to you.
And reminder, if you get eliminated in the episode, you cannot win best or worst.
Correct.
Player, so.
Correct.
Yeah, I would agree. If you think about it, in the end, Kathy gives Rob her vote. The only times that he would have interacted with her are basically here in this episode and in Final Tribal. So somewhere along the line there, she decided that it was worth it to give him the vote. Who knows? Maybe this had some sort of influence.
Helps that they played on the same season.
Yeah.
That helps. Worst player I had Sheehan, and simply just for being on the wrong side of the vote, because there wasn't anything else in this episode.
And I actually have a different one. I said that Big Tom was the worst player of this episode because they had a whole side, I don't want to say like B plot, but they had kind of a B plot going on where Boston Rob became suspicious of Big Tom in this episode. There was a prior alliance, like pregame alliance with Lex and Big Tom that got outed at this point.
Yep.
And then they showed a couple of cuts of Big Tom and Alicia talking with Kathy, and then kind of Boston Rob like, what are they talking about in the water? So it came across as wishy-washy. And so just in general, his alliance became more suspicious of him, and that is why I have to give it to Tom, because Sheehan really couldn't have done anything here.
Screw you, Ryan. That was actually an explanation, so I'm going with Derek.
You know what? I can't fault you for it.
Thank you.
I can't fault you either. I'll stick with Sheehan. I'm not going to change mine, but I'm not unhappy that I don't win this round, I suppose.
That's fair. And for anyone who hasn't listened to these before, since I don't watch the episodes that I don't watch, I'd pick a side when there's a disagreement like this.
Josh is our tiebreaker when he has not seen the episode. So he has his own opinions like we heard in the last episode and then again for the finale, but for the rest of these episodes, he will be our tiebreaker. And that's that episode.
Yep. Moving on.
Episode 13 is Stupid People, Stupid People.
Sounds about right.
It's one of my least favorite confessionals ever. It's from Sheehan. Gosh. Sheehan, okay, so on this rewatch of Survivor Thailand and this season, up until this point, I've been surprisingly fine with Sheehan. She hasn't really annoyed me at all. That's going to change for the next couple episodes where she drives me up the wall.
Which is wild, because I actually am completely on the other side of this coin, so I'm excited for our conversations here.
And then she gets better at the final tribal council, but these 2 episodes are just the worst.
And I've never been a Sheehan fan.
I didn't used to be at all, and I'm not saying I'm a fan. It's just she didn't bother me at all up until this point.
And she kind of bothered me, especially, I remember from this season, it seemed like she was a little self-righteous with her stuff when it's like, why? You have nothing. Like, there's no reason why you should be just acting smarter than everyone.
Yeah, you do have, you're like the worst performing player on the season, to be fair. Like, you're tied with Rob. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Sheehan tries to scheme and plow with a bunch of people in this episode, and Alicia and Rob both just shut her down. They're not interested, which I think is really bad on their parts. Obviously they're not going to work with her, but at least entertain the notion. Make her like you a little bit more, maybe. Give you a jury vote. Rob's not going to get Sheehan's jury vote.
Right. And this is where it's a great lesson in jury management. You might be able to get further in the game by being an iron gate, right, and not letting anybody in. But if you haven't saved anybody or you haven't given anybody shelter or hope is huge in Survivor, by the way, that's not going to do you any favors. That does not pay dividends. You need to invest something.
So we're going to get the coconut shop, your favorite, but it's a reward challenge.
Hooray!
And it was so much better.
Rupert wins. It's the second coconut shop win because he won it in Pearl Islands too.
And he also did it without taking a single hit.
Yeah, impressive.
Which was just really weird. Like, nobody hit Rupert.
And this is really weird because here was the boot order. Big Tom went out first, then Jenna, then Sheehan, Alicia, Rob, Amber.
All I really took note of while watching this was Sheehan took the first hit and was kind of like, yep, that's how it goes. And then after that, everyone was like, meh, This is just a reward. Let's have a good time. I actually think what was happening here was they figured out, oh crap, this is how you, suss out an order. And so they didn't do that. I don't think that Big Tom being the first to go was actually indicative of anything. I actually think it was Boston Rob who cut it, and it was so that there would be one person who couldn't get the right answer next time. So it was more of a numbers game and not because Big Tom was who he was. So it's almost like they're rendering the coconut challenge irrelevant due to evolution of strategy here, and I like that, but I definitely prefer this as a reward.
But there's a twist, which I love. I wish they would do this more often because they've only ever done this twice. Rupert wins. They get taken to a restaurant, and there are 7 meals on the table, from amazing to, some rice and
Camp water.
It's been boiled, though. And he gets to assign who gets what. And Rupert, by doing this, is going to expose the top 4. Rupert, I can't remember who got what, but I think it was Rob was 2, Jenna was 3, and Amber was 4. Tom, Shan, and Alicia got the worst stuff. Tom got a cold tater, as he put it. I got a tater, and it was cold.
I love this so much. And it's actually really ironic that it happens in the same, as a result of the coconut chop. It's just there's going to be inconsistencies here that hopefully people will be able to pick out and see,
I love that the producers did this.
Why is this? Why did I get picked in this order? Even if it's not exactly the same as the coconut chop. Both times I was pretty close to the bottom.
So what's really interesting, there's this theory about governing bodies and its people, right? Governing bodies are always reactive to what the people are doing because there are always loopholes that can be exploited and taken advantage of. Production was proactive this time, and they're like, you know what? These are all-stars. They're going to figure out that this coconut chop doesn't mean jack. So what we're going to do is liquor up Rupert and have him divvy out the meals after he wins. That'll suss out the order.
Yeah, because Rupert gets a ton of booze.
And it works.
Did he make the decision after he was drinking? Or?
No, he made the decision first. And he was somewhat smart about it, where he was like, Rob, you go ahead and choose what you want. He didn't assign the meals, but he assigned the order.
And there was a very obvious, I'm assuming a very obvious, scaled down of, what would be the next item that probably should be picked.
Even though I would have gone out of order, I think number 4 was a hot dog with sour, and I would have taken that above number 3, which I can't remember what it was. But
I can't remember what Amber picked.
I only know is the hot dog with sauerkraut was better than the one above it, I thought. So I would have gone out of order. But the other part of this challenge is this was a slam book challenge. Where it was the classic questions who is the most annoying person on the tribe? Stuff like that.
Whoops.
Who is not as smart as she thinks, or they think they are? Alicia. I think I got that one.
Yep, and then it was a who here is not an all-star. Who here does not deserve to be here?
Alicia.
Oh, I thought it was Cheyenne. Yeah.
Oh, that's what I would have put. But Alicia gets just wrecked in this challenge. Honestly, if you're ever in this challenge, just write yourself for all the questions. Who doesn't deserve to be an all-star? Put yourself up.
Yeah, all the bad answers, just write your name.
You don't piss anybody off that way.
Can you write down your own name?
Yes.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, okay.
Who is the most trustworthy? Put your own name. Just put your own name for everything, unless it's who's the least trustworthy, and then put somebody else. This is a challenge you don't want to win, especially when it's reward. Throw this challenge. I cannot stress enough. Slam book. Reveal the pecking order. Reward that reveals the pecking order.
This is brutal.
Yeah, Rupert's I kind of regret winning this challenge.
As you should.
The only good thing that came out of it was a steak.
Yeah, he did get a steak and a lot of booze. Alicia does not handle this well, and she's kind of pissy about it. So it's you gotta have a thicker skin. It sucked. I'm sure that sucked to hear, but...
Well, and also, number 1 trait that we always say on Survivor is self-awareness. I mean, come on. Amber, Rob, Sheehan, you guys know that you were alternates. But you know what? You got to participate, and you've made it this far, and you're in the majority alliance. Don't be a sour grape about it. Just be like, you know what? That's actually kind of cool that y'all don't think I deserve to be here, and yet... here I am.
And actually, I put Amber as least deserving to be an all-star. She's going to win the game, though.
And it's just interesting. So self-awareness is important, and honestly, don't be afraid of that self-deprecation. I mean, the people who own it, there's a reason they always end up being fan favorites, because they know who they are.
Yep. So Tom and Alicia, they're kind of pissed about the whole thing, so they want to get rid of Rupert next. It's not a bad plan.
Getting rid of Rupert here is a good move for a lot of reasons. I think that's maybe the second most important reason, if you want to call it important. The most important is that Rupert, although he's not won an individual immunity, is a beast.
And he's well-liked.
This is a perfectly good time to get rid of Rupert, looking at your core alliance, assuming that Sheehan doesn't win immunity.
Sheehan's going to win immunity.
Sheehan wins immunity.
It's the one where you got to hold your hand up in the air, and if you pull it too much, a bucket of water is going to dump down on you.
The one that they have buffed a couple of times.
Yeah. Sheehan wins, and boy, is she cocky and insufferable about it. Ugh.
Oh, great. Now that you're protected, and I'm assuming this is where the title of the episode comes in. Now that she's protected, she can be all high and mighty and call everyone stupid.
Yeah, because no one really schemes with her. And she's like, they're all stupid because they won't scheme with me.
I disagree with you on this. I actually thought it was really funny because this is why making people feel comfortable and at least giving people hope and playing the game more cerebrally is important, because they made it no secret that Sheehan was going home. So what does she have to lose by celebrating? Like,
Jury votes?
See, and I disagree. I think Sheehan's one chance to win now is to own being public enemy number one and win out. I think that there's no other way for Sheehan to win, realistically. So be the target. Paint the mustard target on your chest and then have someone shoot the t-shirt gun at you. That's a Simpsons reference. Hopefully somebody gets it. Be public enemy number one. Make everybody hate you. Survive anyway. And at least you can pitch that to the jury. Y'all wanted me out. Y'all couldn't get me. I think that's Sheehan's only angle, and I think she plays it perfectly. So when she wins and goes in your face, I actually love it, because she has not been allowed to do anything and nothing has gone her way. This goes her way. She beat everybody, the big guys, all the girls. This is hers. She owns it. And she was trying to scheme and plot beforehand, and still no one's going to talk to her afterward. But if they had, there's 7 people left in the game? So she could have been their number. But because this alliance has been all high and mighty on their horse, well, they can't vote her out now, and she gets a front row seat to watching them cannibalize themselves. And I really enjoy it.
Well, here's the thing. Is, like you said, there's 7 people left. There's a pretty solid core 4. Mm-hmm. I don't know how well it came through, but like just watching the beginning of the finale, they showed the final 4 basically making a pact that yep, it's going to be us. And that stayed true all the way to the end. So I don't think it really mattered. There's going to be a very obvious just bottom 3 here that are just going to go. So I don't think that you're going to have a chance to group up together and get out a Rupert until it's maybe two more votes down the line.
Alicia and Tom think they're in the 4 with Rob and Amber. And that's what it is. So there's 2 foursomes with Rob and Amber being in both.
And again, from my perspective, I think that the wrong 4 make the top 4. I think they should be gunning for Rupert right now rather than Alicia.
I disagree. We'll come to this in a second, because the votes come down to basically it's between Alicia and Rupert. And I think part of it is it's going to end up being 6 votes for Alicia, 1 vote for Rupert. Tom and Sheehan fall in line to get rid of Alicia. And I think the problem here is the core alliance for Alicia, she really only had one with Rob. So everyone else, Amber, Rupert, Jenna, they're fine getting rid of Alicia because they don't have that tight bond with her. Rob's got a bond with everybody. Tom and Rupert are basically interchangeable. They're both fine at the challenges. They're both liked. They're both pretty equal threats to win. I actually think Tom is a slightly bigger threat because he's got Lex on that jury pulling for him, where Rupert doesn't really have somebody like that. But getting rid of Alicia, I think, is a fine move. But for Rob, it makes another enemy, puts another enemy on the jury. So I think it's fine for everybody except Rob. Rob probably suffers the most from this.
And don't get me wrong, Alicia is a fine vote. But get rid of Rupert now. He is too much of a challenge beast. Even if he's not performing well in these individual ones so far, he always did well in the team ones. You know that he's well liked. And I understand that, you got to get rid of Big Tom because he has Lex on the jury pulling for him. I get that. But you, again, have time to do that. I think that original Shapira should have stayed together and gotten rid of and cannibalized the Saboga members that came on later. I think that would have been in their best interest to do in that order. And that's why I was so confused with why no one was conspiring with Sheehan, and why I think that Sheehan, in this moment, I'm not saying that they're all stupid people, but I think they were all playing very stupid by not entertaining the thought.
Sure.
And they had a massive missed opportunity with voting out Rupert, and I wish that they would have. I think that was the better move.
I think with Rob and Amber, they were thinking Rupert's least likely to betray them, where Tom and Alicia have both acted sketchy in the past. Rupert's not going to betray you ever.
Yeah, we just kind of talked about earlier that they're a little weird just because of, I think it was when they were talking to Kathy and stuff. So if everything else is even, if you feel a little bit more confident about the other 2, that's who you should go with.
And maybe that is why Alicia went home, because we just saw how Rob doesn't trust Big Tom anymore. So he weakened Big Tom, put him on his back foot by eliminating Alicia. So maybe that is a better move for Rob and Amber overall, assuming that's where the trust falls lie. I guess that makes enough sense to me. So I'll back off of it a little bit. Both of them are fine moves.
Yeah. She's pissed at Rob, though. Alicia is.
No.
Very.
Join the club.
Derek, so who do you have for best player of the episode?
I have Xian. She tried to shake up the power structure before she won immunity. She won immunity and ultimately saved herself. And even after winning that immunity, she did not stop trying to strategize with the other players. She didn't go sit up on a mountaintop and just gloat and profess to the heavens that she was a gift from the survivor god. She said, no, I have immunity. Listen, you can't vote me out now. You're probably going to be able to vote me out next time, but use me now. And I think that's the right move, and it's the right attitude. Never say die. I loved everything that Xian did this episode, and it made me respect her gameplay even more because she seemed to be the only one who was looking at it cerebrally.
It's Xian, but I don't like it. She did win immunity. She got Alicia out, and Alicia was one of the 2 people who would not work with her, period. And Alicia can beat Xian. Everybody can beat Xian. Her best bet. Xian needs to go to the end with Rob, for the record. They're the bottom 2, I think. Xian and Rob. So getting Alicia out is a good move for Xian. So, best player is Xian.
Makes sense to me.
How about worst player, Derek?
I have to back off of it a little bit, I think, just because of our discussion, but I had Boston Rob because I felt like he should have targeted Rupert, because Boston Rob is the biggest physical threat. He's way up there. So getting rid of people who can beat him in challenges gives him a better shot at making it to the end whenever the tides start to turn on him a little bit. They're never really going to do that, but I felt like this was a good time to get rid of a challenge beast who just lost a challenge. You have a swing vote in Xian and a core Shapira that you can stick to at least long enough. I also think that because of Alicia's personality, Boston Rob lost another jury vote right here. I think there's no chance Alicia will vote for him after he made the pact with her, and then she gets unanimously voted out.
I agree that it's Boston Rob. Puts another enemy on the jury. He also refused to scheme with Shannon this episode, which is bad. So yeah, I do think it is Boston Rob. One thing I do want to note, and this might kind of fill in the blanks a little bit on why people are hesitant to make the big move. So the $1 million prize stayed the same. It was still $1 million, but every other prize was doubled. So second place got $200,000 instead of $100,000. So by standing pat, just staying in the game longer, making the safe move, you were just guaranteeing you were going to get a significant amount of money. Whereas the $1 million was the same. So I think if they had swapped it and just made a $2 million prize instead like they did for Winners at War, people would have been more willing to stab people.
You don't change the pot, like the grand prize, but you double everything else. You are now incentivizing players to lose in a weird way.
Or just stand pat.
Yeah.
If they're in a decent position, just...
You're diluting it a little bit just because, you're incentivizing people just to be in the background, not make moves, not have a lot of personality. Like, don't be really out there and be like, oh, wow, what's that person doing? And just kind of just hang around until you get voted out.
Which is interesting on the All-Star season where you see a post-merge dominated by players that were not high profile in their first seasons. It's because they're playing with house money. They shouldn't even be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're playing more. I think they're playing a lot less for the money and more for making either making a name for themselves or really going for the title if it matters to them as much.
Redemption.
Yeah.
Episode 14 is a Shapira surprise. So Jenna really annoys Xian and Rupert because she's kind of bossy about the food, and Rupert gets super petty about the food, and he just you guys cannot cut your own fish. It's just people getting sick of each other 30 days in.
Mm-hmm. It happens.
It happens, but chill out. It's just food.
The only lesson here is don't have sole responsibility over the food, ever. Make group decisions when it comes to stuff like this. And also, if Rupert is doing all the fishing, let him have a fish to himself every now and again. I don't care if you think that's not fair for the competitions, for the challenges. He doesn't need to share any of his fish with you if he doesn't want to.
Be grateful you're getting any.
Exactly. It's not great for his social game if he doesn't share. Let him dig his own grave. You don't have to throw yourself under the bus and take Rupert with you. People will notice that he's eating more fish for himself. That's his choice.
Yep. Jenna, let Rupert go. Calm down. So we get the loved ones challenge where they get to eat gross food. The loved ones get to eat gross food.
Classic.
Always good.
And Tom's son, Bucky Bo, wins.
Which, straight up, if you would have put these loved ones up on a police lineup and said, all right, who's going to win this gross food, bug-eating, whatever nasty thing contest, you'd look at Bo and the name Bo and you'd be like, Yeah, that's the one.
No one stands a chance.
He is Tom's son.
Absolutely.
He looks and acts like it. It's so funny.
It actually caused me to double take and kind of like sit up in my chair during the last, like they ate a grub. It was like a 2-inch grub or whatever. He just throws it in his mouth, one chomp, and it's gone. It was less than a second. He goes, meh, I'm done.
He did like the Matthew thing and back in the Amazon.
Yeah.
Like, I can feel it crawling down my throat. I don't like it.
So he wins. He picks Rob to go with him. And this is one of those things where your loved one's competing. You can't really throw the challenge.
Yeah.
So Survivor wants to do this, again, to make the loved ones compete. I like it.
Yes.
Rob's a fine pick. You want to keep Rob happy at this point.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's the power player. Keep him happy.
Who are you going to pick? Aggravation.
And then we go to the good old fire making immunity challenge, which I love. Looked really tough, and everybody's like running out of matches, so they're DQ'd.
Everyone except Sheehan and Big Tom ran out of matches.
Yep. And Tom, of course, wins immunity because he's Big Tom.
Yes.
Fire making immunity challenge. Duh, Tom's going to win.
Would have been interesting, though. Sheehan won.
Yep. So at Tribal Council, obviously Shan's going home. She throws Jenna under the bus for being annoying, which is very funny.
And true.
And the right move.
And the right move. Just toss everything at the wall at this point.
Yeah.
But it's 5 votes for Shan, 1 vote for Amber, because Shan said her vote would be the person she thinks is going to win, or is like the secret threat to win. Shan calls her shot. She Babe Ruths this.
So I took 3 notes for this episode. My best player, my worst player, and then I said Shean's assessment about Amber is going to age like wine, because she had a good sense of where the jury's head was at and where the players in the game were going. So that ages like wine, and it's another reason that I have massive respect for Shean's game in this post-merge. I mean, I understand that maybe you guys were a little bit annoyed with it, but she knew what was going on. She never quit. She fought like hell. She found the right crack to try to attack this alliance and throw Jenna under the bus for everything that happened. It didn't work, but, you know, if you weren't annoyed with Shean, we would say, and you actually just said, it is the right move. So even though Shean goes home here, I want to actually throw out a huge nod that these last 2 episodes were great with Shean, and I think they proved that she had more to offer. It's just she wasn't in a great position to compete with the majority alliance. So I very much liked it.
Here's the thing. You can be extremely knowledgeable on the game of Survivor and be clued in on everything and be able to see exactly where the game's going and still not be a great Survivor player. That would be my biggest fear about going on Survivor, is that I feel like I'd be able to tell like what's going on and be really knowledgeable on basically how everything's working and where it's gonna end up going, and still suck just because I feel like I wouldn't be able to execute. And I feel like Shean's flaws basically it prevents her from being able to really execute.
She annoys everyone. If you're annoying everyone, if everyone says you're annoying, you might be annoying.
Do you know who else annoyed everybody? Johnny Fairplay. We don't
He
consider.
was trying to. Shan wasn't trying to.
Yeah, she thought that she was just hot crap.
Yep.
And she was just regular crap.
Hey, you know, we're all entitled to our opinions, and I understand that I am the minority opinion on this, but I really enjoyed Jan's great 2-episode arc here. I don't need to see her play again, but I was happy with what I saw.
I do love the move about like leaving one last little gift on your way out the door and vote. Like, did she publicly say, "I'm voting for the person who I think is going to win"?
Yeah.
Like at Tribal.
Yes, yeah. She said, "I'm
Nice.
I'm going to throw a vote for someone who I think is low key controlling this game and a threat to win."
Just toss the little Molotov cocktail behind you on your way out the door. I'm not saying Shan played poorly here. I'm saying she was super annoying.
And I didn't get any of that, but maybe rose-colored glasses. I don't know.
I think this is the right move for everybody except Boston Rob. Boston Rob can no longer win this game. Maybe he's got a chance to get to Jenna, but I really don't think he can beat anybody. I think he would have beat Shean, but I think that is it. So Rob, congratulations, you just lost the game.
So I'm guessing he is your worst player.
Sure, yeah. Rob is the worst player. He votes out Shean, can't win the game anymore.
And I used my dishonorable mention. I had Jenna because I said at this point, Jenna can no longer win the game. I think that Rob, at this point while I was watching, would beat Jenna by maybe 1 vote, just because as mad as Rob was making everyone, if Rob and Jenna made it to the final 2, everybody made everybody mad. Rob made people more mad, but he played the game doing it. And Jenna was trying to play, but ultimately didn't have a lot of weight to throw around in any of the decision making because she was on Trash Savoga and then did well with assimilating, but wouldn't really have a resume, even though that's not in the nomenclature yet. So that was my thought process. I don't know if I'm right.
I think it would have been close.
We have an unofficial tally from the reunion show that Jenna would have lost by 1 vote to Boston Rob, but that is obviously unofficial.
Yeah. And I don't 100% buy that one. It really comes down to Big Tom for me. Who's Big Tom? Because Big Tom didn't like Jenna. Big Tom was pissed at Rob.
Right.
Don't know what he would have done.
Right. So that's why I had Jenna for my worst.
But I had Rob, you had Jenna.
By the way, my differentiating factor was that Jenna annoyed everybody in this episode.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Jenna. I don't think it's as clear-cut that Rob for sure wouldn't win against anyone. I think that there's plenty of time. Yes, maybe like at that specific moment, but I think that there's plenty of time left in the game to be able to just change. And we saw that it was, 4-3 in the actual final tribal council. That's close enough for me to say that he could go up against a couple of people here.
Okay.
And still be fine.
For best player, I had Big Tom. He handled the reward challenge about as well as he could have, which could have been a tough spot for him. He won immunity. He got rid of Sheehan.
I had Amber because she got jury respect from Sheehan publicly in front of the jury where they got to see Sheehan's vote saying, I think this person is controlling the game more than people think, and I think she's low-key ready to win. And also, Sheehan going home is kind of a wild card, the last true wild card. I mean, you can make an argument for Big Tom, but the last true wild card left in the game, the pagonging is basically complete now. So she was a part of that, but again, got the boost for jury management from Sheehan, not from herself. And I just felt like that put her on a pedestal above everyone else.
See, I feel like that'd be more of a negative than anything, just because, yes, it's great on the jury, but the jury basically already knows all that, and that's more like, oh, mad respect to Sheehan for predicting the winner, rather than, oh, yeah, Amber was doing well before. So I'd have to side with Ryan more.
And I totally get it. When I had thought about my best player, I actually was like, but that's bad. It's bringing notoriety to herself. But it's so hard to win as an under-the-radar player, especially when you're someone like Amber who is coattailing on someone like Rob. So to have somebody else laud praise onto you without you needing to change course at all, I think is maybe a blessing in disguise. Because if the players in the game don't see you as a threat, it doesn't really change your position in the tribe, but it helps on the jury. So I can't disagree with you. I know it's kind of a hot take, but that was why I thought it was actually a really good thing.
I definitely agree that it puts her on the radar for the jury. Maybe they pay a little bit more attention now. So like that, I definitely agree with. But I just think that it also comes with the negative side that just would prevent her from being the best because of that.
And I get that.
So you're going to go with Big Tom?
Yep.
Thank you, Josh.
You're welcome.
All right, episode 15 is The Instigator, and this is probably my favorite episode of the season. I think this one's at least interesting, and it's not as unpleasant as some of the other episodes in the season, so...
High praise.
High praise.
It's slightly interesting and not as bad.
Yes.
Great.
So it starts off with Rupert and Jenna scheming to get out Rob next, and Rob is right behind them, and here's everything.
Constant vigilance,
Constant
people.
vigilance.
If they're right around you, don't say those things.
Yep. Now, Rupert and Jenna should be thinking about switching things up to seize power. They should be going after Amber, but, at least they're thinking.
I mean, they should be going after Rob, I think.
No, they should be going after Amber. Amber's the bigger threat to win.
I suppose on the likability scale.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking like a logical, rational human being, and Rob is playing the best game,
sure.
so maybe you should.
And every other season of the show, yes.
I would say, in hindsight,
yeah,
they should be looking at Amber, but basically the entire post-merge when I was watching this 5 years ago, I'm thinking Rob's gonna win this, basically.
And in the other 39 seasons of the show, you'd be right.
Exactly, but so I would actually be, in real time, I would be saying, yep, they should go for Rob. And then they can always take out Amber afterwards.
Yep.
But knowing everything we know, they should be going after Amber.
Yes.
So Rob wins the reward challenge, and it's kind of fun because it's one of those single elimination challenges. There's 5 stages, and each round somebody gets eliminated. And I wish they would do these more. I'd love these. These are so fun. This is my favorite type of challenge in Survivor.
And it's for a truck.
It's for a truck. Rob wins the truck. He takes Amber on reward.
Which, okay.
Bad move.
This was a horrible move.
Horrible move.
I think it's the worst move of the episode. Bring Big Tom.
Yep, should have been Big Tom.
Because you know that Amber is not going to leave your side.
He is the swing boat.
Don't let Tom, Rupert, and Jenna hang out at camp and bond over the fact that they didn't win the car and they didn't go on a date with their significant other on the island.
Rob's motivations are in a different place.
Yes. What should be happening now is Tom, Rupert, and Jenna should be coming together and be like, okay, let's get out Rob and Amber. At least for this round of play. And then it gets even better because they dinner and a movie, and Amber gets a car as well. And then they get back to camp, and Amber tells everyone she also got a car.
Oh, wait, did I say that Rob taking Amber was the worst move? Man, if there was a close second, telling everybody that you want a car when you didn't need to do that. Because now you're the power couple who get to go on new car dates. You could go to the drive-in movies and both sit in your own Survivor 1 car.
And they bring back candy for everyone and split it 5 ways. Give it to them 3 ways.
Give it to them.
Oh my gosh.
They had like 6 hot dogs apiece.
It's crazy to me that neither Rob or Amber is going to be my worst player of the episode. It's insane to me that that's the case. So Rupert tries to get Tom on board to knock Rob out of the game. And Rob is kind of like, yeah, I'm in trouble. And then so he starts playing Rupert and Tom against each other and being like, hey, he said this. Hey, he said this. And so they're all out in the water, and Rupert and Tom are having an argument about who said what, and Rob's just kind of standing over there with a grin on his face.
He's laughing. Oh man, I don't think I would want to be there because like you got to keep a straight face because in actuality you're on somebody's side here. You're rooting for Big Tom, you'd think, but I think he's just like, hey, look whose name is no longer coming up.
Gotcha. It's the best move of this season, I think. I think this is number 1 on the pecking order for moves of the season. I think this is number 1. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Would this work against most people? No, but Rupert and Tom, yes.
Yeah, they're the 2 perfect people to be in this situation, and you just have to take advantage of the situation.
You got these 2 like stalwart, huge personality individuals
that are based on honor and integrity.
That are both like honor bound, and then tell each of them that the other has no honor. It's hilarious.
It's really funny.
And I feel badly for him, but like, that's the game of Survivor.
Rob played them like a fiddle. And then he's going to keep playing like a fiddle when he wins the word scramble immunity challenge.
Yep.
So Rob's got immunity now. Can't go after Rob. So go after Amber. So Rob goes to Tom and asks, hey, Tom, have you ever targeted me? And Tom denies it, but he's not convincing at all.
No.
He looks so bad. And he even says, hey, I'm the swing vote. Don't say that. It's true.
In fairness, the way that he explained it was Rupert and Jenna are Saboga. You and Amber are in a legitimate relationship. That leaves me. So, like, I see why he said it, but choose not to say it like that. Like, you need to be definitive and pick your side. Don't act as though you're a swing vote. If someone else calls you the swing vote, you can call me what you want, but I am with you. Tell me who to vote for, and I will do that. You know, that's all you can do.
The 3 of them all agreed to vote out Jenna, but that's not going to happen. Also, they should be going after Rupert, honestly. But between Rupert and Jenna, go after Rupert. Tribal Council, it's going to be 4 votes for Big Tom, 1 vote for Jenna.
What?
Yeah. This should not have happened. This should not have happened.
In 0% of the scenarios should this have happened.
This needed to be Amber.
This needed to be Amber or Rupert. And I want to have a discussion, and I don't know if we really have notes on this set up, but like, what do you think the pecking order is here? Because whatever the pecking order is, in terms of like most likely to win, Big Tom should be on the side of the people who are less likely to win. And that's why I think the right move here is Rupert and not Amber. I don't think Amber is the biggest threat to win the game. I think that Rupert is. Out of likability and skill left in the game, if you're from Big Tom, I think Rupert is his biggest competition. Eliminate him now by joining up with Rob and Amber, which he tried to do, but Rob and Amber decided that Rupert wasn't a bigger target than Big Tom and decided to take out Big Tom, which doesn't make any sense to me.
I have Big Tom's path at the end here. All right, get everyone together, vote out Amber. So you split Amber and Rob up. Next, you get Jenna and Boston Rob together and target Rupert. Bring up the whole tie-making thing.
Yeah, rocks.
You go back to Rob after, voting on Amber. Rob will work with you again. He won't like it, but Rob's a smart guy. He knows he won't have a choice. They're going to vote out Rupert because he's such a huge threat. Then you got to win the final immunity challenge and hopefully knock out Rob. But you're in a good spot and you're in the power position. Tom is number 1 on the pecking order to win. I think he beats everyone. And yeah, you have to get rid of Rupert at some point. But more importantly, you have to split up Rob and Amber.
It's so dangerous, especially when you get to the final 4, to have 2 people who literally will not vote against each other. Just because as long as one of the other 2 people don't win immunity, you're screwed. Because no one wants a tie. You don't want to be forced into a tie situation, so you're going to end up losing.
And for that reason, I guess I would say that, yeah, Amber is the right move overall, just to split up that duo that will not vote for each other. The other side being Rupert still, though he hasn't won individual immunity, is a threat to win his way to the end and start making a name for himself. So I think that he's maybe second. But if you're talking about like voter power, Amber is probably the best move. So the poor players here really are Jenna and Rupert.
Yeah, I think that you're right with what should be the next move. Like if you're just looking at the next vote, I think that it would make sense to be Rupert, but this is one of the scenarios where you have to look down the line a little bit more. I really, really, really need to vote out Rupert, but if I do that, I'm going to have such less likely chance of making it.
Should have been Amber. So it is Tom, and on his way out the door, he just gives this death glare. It's great.
Daggers.
That's the moment from the season I always think of when I think of All-Stars. It's Big Tom turning around like that. That was ingrained in my head for forever. For best player, I had Boston Rob. Shockingly, because he made the best move of the season. He overheard Jenna and Rupert. He played Rupert and Tom against each other. He won immunity. He caught Tom in a lie. He eliminated Tom and saved Amber. That reward challenge aside, he had a phenomenal episode.
And based on our conversations, the notes that I took are going to be completely useless here. So just to warn everybody, I'm sticking to my guns on this. My best was Jenna, because for some reason she was on the chopping block and ended up not getting chopped. Again, I would go back on this and I would switch to your assessment, and I would agree that Boston Rob is definitely the best. But that was my thinking at the time, was Jenna was on the chopping block and somehow got off the chopping block by turning the two duos joining up and eliminating the swing vote. You guys have kind of talked me out of that strategy-wise, so I'll concede to Boston Rob. Josh doesn't even need to decide.
No. But I would agree, just because the positives far outweigh the negatives.
And then for worst player, I had Rupert, because he got caught scheming by Rob. He got lured into that fight with Tom, and he even says in the confessional, shouldn't have done that. Rob lured me right into it. And then he eliminated Tom instead of Amber. He fell for Rob's trap, and he's going to lose the game because of it.
Yeah, basically for both Rupert and Jenna, this is their chance.
Again, these notes aged like milk. I had Boston Rob as my worst player of the episode because he was so convinced that Big Tom was lying to him, when in fact, I do think that Big Tom was loyal to him and Amber. Against his own best interests, Tom was loyal to them and was planning to go to the final three, win his way in, and that was his plan, was win his way in and win. It's a perfectly sound argument to get to the end, but maybe not the best. But if he's the biggest threat going in to the final three, he needs to win his way in anyway. And if that's the case, maybe it would have been better to consider other options. So that was why I had him as my worst. But again, I have to defer because of our conversations.
To Rupert?
Yeah.
But that is the end of Big Tom, and now we're going into the finale. All right, so we're into the finale, episode 16, The Sole Surviving All-Star. So, first thing that happens is we have a maze immunity challenge, and Amber wins.
Yeah.
Good for Amber.
Good for Amber.
Cool maze.
Very cool maze. So Amber and Rob are obviously not going to split up. They're going to put their votes on Rupert, which is the right move because Rupert's the biggest threat left in the game. So Jenna is torn. Does she go to Rocks or does she vote out Rupert? Now, to be fair, I don't know if Rocks were still the tiebreaker. I think they had switched to fire making because they didn't like how it worked out in Marquesas, but they didn't tell anyone because they didn't want any more ties. So it's like, let's let them keep thinking it's Rocks and let it scare them. So you don't have any more ties, but it's really fire making. That's what I think is going on.
Which is 100% the right move, by the way, is to instead do fire.
Yeah, yes. But Jenna is going to go ahead and vote for Rupert as well, which is the right move.
Yep.
Jenna's in a tough spot. She shouldn't be here because Tom should still be in the game and Amber should be gone. We shouldn't even be here. Jenna's in a very tricky spot to win this game, but it is the right move to vote out Rupert. She's just got to win the final immunity challenge.
Yep.
She can't beat Rupert.
Take all chance out of it, and you can still maybe beat Rob at the end.
Yep. It's the right move by Rupert. So, best player. Who do you got?
Amber, because she won immunity. Everyone else made the right moves.
Yep. It's Amber.
Very straightforward.
And I didn't have a worse player.
There isn't.
I actually didn't write one down because no one really could have done anything differently. Like Jenna was in the spot that she was in.
The three survivors did the right thing right.
Yep.
This is probably one of the few times where in the final four, Rupert going home was for the betterment of everybody left in the game.
Yep. Rupert was my next winner pick, so now he's gone. Who did I go with? I obviously went with Boston or Rob, even though, like, if you really think about it, he can't win. Or he probably won't win. But that is who I went with back in the day, back when I was a kid when this first aired. I'd probably still stick with it because in the other 39 seasons we have this setup, Rob will win. But this is All-Stars. This is season 8. This is the outlier. But so we're all on Team Rob now.
And I also like switching to Rob at this point in the game because I think he has a 66% chance to make it to the end. Actually, I think Rob makes it to the finale no matter what.
I think he's got 100% chance making it to the end.
If he wins, he's in. If Amber wins, she's got a better chance at beating Rob. If Jenna wins, she's got a better chance of beating Rob. So at least you get to compete in the tournament by picking Rob.
Do you think that outside of All-Stars, like if we were in just any other season, do you think that Jenna would see Rob as a threat, though?
Oh, yeah.
So, outside of All-Stars, does she take Amber?
Oh, my God.
I think we need to stop talking about it in hindsight and start talking about it more like, in this specific time, just drop us in, who would she actually take, not who should she take.
Sure.
I feel like in almost any other season, Rob would be such an easy choice to vote out.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think in any other season, you're right. But again, All-Stars,
Yes.
It's the least relevant season. Rupert gets voted out of the game. Rupert will play again. You guys want to see Rupert come back?
I think that we've seen all that he has to offer. I would take it. It's fine, but I think that I'd rather see it. I don't want him to take the place of someone else, though.
I think I said yes after season 7, and oddly enough, I'm going to say yes here because we've just had our first All-Star season. Hot take for you guys, Rupert in All-Stars is better than Rupert in Pearl Islands. Yes, for all of our listeners out there, Rupert in All-Stars is better than Rupert in Pearl Islands because this Rupert was more complex, he was multidimensional, he understood his role, he didn't try and overplay his power, and also it wasn't the Rupert Bonham show the whole time, in your face, this is the biggest character, the most entertaining. We only got a little bit of Rupert. So everything about Rupert's character and Rupert's gameplay, I think took a step forward in a positive direction. And if we're having another All-Star season down the road where it's Survivor Legends, I mean, like that hasn't happened per se, but Survivor Legends, you can't exclude Rupert from that. And if he takes steps forward in every facet, and a character like Rupert works better on a season full of big characters, so he's not the focal point, I want to see Rupert again.
I'm good. Let's not. When I was a kid, I was like, Rupert's not that much fun anymore because All-Stars isn't that fun. Yeah, most of the All-Stars I didn't want to see play again, if I'm being completely honest. I'm like, I'm good. But Rupert's one of them. He's not the worst of the bunch by far, but I'm good.
I kind of agree with Derek that he's a little bit better this season, but in some ways.
Sure.
He's a better Survivor player this season, and I think he's much more tolerable this season. Again, if you listen to our Pearl Islands podcast, I agreed with Derek by saying that it got a little much, like towards the end. I was okay with him leaving at that point, but you can't take away the entertainment that we got from that entire Rupert show, basically. But seeing as though the actual like strategic side took a small step forward, it didn't take a huge step forward. I don't think that's going to take in even another one after this. So I'm good.
All right, final 3. Fallen Comrades. Hooray. Who cares? Final Immunity Challenge.
Which was, by the way, was Derek's favorite part of every season.
Yes.
ever.
Yeah, because this is Derek's chance to start playing games on his phone.
Yes.
I did pull out my phone and...
To be fair, all of us were on our phones
Yes.
at this point.
Who cares?
Who cares?
Final Immunity Challenge. It's the Hands on the Idol. It's the classic. I think it's the last time we get it. I like that we get it here. Jenna falls out first, then Amber.
Hardly.
Barely.
Yeah,
And
both of these were technicalities.
technicalities.
Stay focused.
That's part of the challenge.
That's the challenge.
It's presented as a stamina challenge, but it is only slightly a stamina challenge.
It's a focus challenge.
It's focus challenge with a huge stamina element.
But Boston Rob wins.
And by the way, the only other note that I took on, and believe it or not, I took one note on the Fallen Comrades. It was Lex's voiceover. He said, "I fell victim to being in love with personal relationships on the island. It ultimately was my downfall in putting too much stock in friendships."
Yes.
Why is he going to be sour grapes in about 5 minutes?
Yeah,
then?
he seems like he's realized everything.
if
They
you-
might have recorded this way in the future.
If they had to have, but I remember hearing that. I'm like, but then why are you so sour? Like this is
But he doesn't think he's being sour.
he doesn't think he's being sour, but I just remember hearing it and thinking, okay, I don't understand.
There's a disconnect. So here's the question. It's not even a question. Rob should vote out Amber if he wants to win the game. He's got a better chance against Jenna. I think Rob's going to be fine because he's going to marry Amber and go on The Amazing Race and just do a whole lot of other stuff and make a lot of money. Rob's fine. So for the life choice is like in Rob's specific position, just to have the best life he can have, he makes the right move by taking Amber to the end. But technically we are Castaway Consultants, not Love Consultants. He makes
Cut
the wrong
ties.
move. Cut ties. You got to know when to cut ties. Vote at Amber. Take Jen to the end, and you'll probably still lose, but maybe you'll win.
See, this is okay. So I've got the scenario. I don't remember who it was. I think maybe it was Dominic and Wendell, but they basically the entire time were jokingly saying like, "Oh, I can't wait to like cut your throat in the final 3 or whatever, final four, whatever it ends up being." I think you just take that move. Just I can't wait to cut you loose so I can actually win the title. Maybe you should still be able to salvage the relationship at that point and be good going forward. Now I know that this is more classic Survivor, so it's completely different, but toss yourself more on the modern side where it's like you can be a little bit more forgiving and lighthearted about it.
I
think
absolutely
you'd be able to do
date/marry someone who voted me out as Survivor. I'd respect them for it. I'm more likely to date/marry someone who voted me out than someone who didn't, I think.
Now, on the flip side, if you're Rob and you're thinking through all those things, and you know that you're starting to like actually be in a pretty serious relationship with this person, I love the idea of hedging your bet here because you run the risk of losing to Jenna, and then no one gets the million from your relationship. You're not guaranteed to win here. Mm-hmm. If you were absolutely guaranteed to win over Jenna, then I would say maybe entertain it. But if you don't think that you're gonna win, or you think it's a toss-up, bring her with.
My only thought on this, Boston Rob says it himself, I don't think I can beat either of these ladies in the final. If that's the case, you have already forfeited your game. Make a life decision. Bring Amber to the end, because then at least there's no bad blood between you and the one person in your life who actually matters. I genuinely believe that Rob, after witnessing the jury's scowls and Big Tom's scowl on his way out, believed he could no longer win the game, and I think that him getting 3 votes out of 7, he was surprised.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think he was expecting 1 or 2. And if that's the case, this is the right move, but I am absolutely with you, Ryan. If we're looking on this on a purely gameplay technical scale, get rid of Amber because you guys played the same game and people hate her less. You probably can't beat her. Go against Jenna, someone who rode Shapira's coattails and by and large rode your coattails to the end.
And annoyed people.
So it is a better move for Rob to try to win by taking Jenna. But if he thought he was going to lose no matter what, I got nothing for him. He does just fine.
He's fine. Technically the wrong move. Jenna's going to go. Best player, I think, is obviously Amber. I think that's not a hot take. Convinced Rob to take her to the end. She's going to win.
Yeah. And I will give a worse player to Rob because I think he made the wrong game decision. But this is a game of inches.
Yeah, worst player is Rob, but, he's fine.
Yep and yep.
So, final tribal council. Opening statements. Rob is just like, hey, I didn't want personal relationships to affect the game. And Amber says, I'm here because of luck and Rob. 0.1 to Rob.
Yep.
Negative 1 point to Amber.
Amber had a very honest opening statement. Not a good one, though.
And what's weird is with this jury, who knows? Maybe they actually respect that. It's weird.
So I don't want to talk about everyone. There's only like 5 I want to talk about because Jen and Rupert are just like, whatever, who cares?
Sure.
So let's start with Lex. He gives this big, long-winded speech about how it's not just a game. Very eloquent, but he's like, I'm not sour grapes, and you're sour grapes.
Lex, you are sour grapes.
He's on this high horse. He doesn't ask any questions, but he just, basically this whole thing is like a sucker punch to Rob. And Rob does not recover from this for the rest of it. Rob's like down. Rob has been sucker punched. He's on the mat. He's not getting back up to the rest of the tribal council.
Lex asked one rhetorical question. He's like, what kind of friend are you? That was the question, and he didn't expect an answer nor allow for one.
And Rob, here's the problem. Rob's going to fall apart in this final tribal council after this. And he's really apologetic. He's sorry. And guess what? That wins nobody over. Except maybe Kathy, but I think Kathy was going to vote Rob anyway. Honestly, the move for Rob is to be like, hey, I came into this game to play. You did not. Clearly. You made a mistake. I didn't. I'm here. You're not. Vote for me because I played the best game. I'm sorry if you're hurt. If you want to get a beer after this game and talk things out, fine. I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. That wasn't my goal. But I played the game. I made the right moves for my game because I want to win. Vote for me.
It's easy.
It's so much better.
And if you're going to be the villain of the season and you make it to Final Tribal Council, if you're the villain in Final Tribal Council, be the villain. Wreck-It Ralph. It's okay to be the bad guy. Survivor is one of the times, especially in more modern Survivor, it's okay to be the bad guy.
You don't have to be a dick.
Right.
And Rob was a bit dickish.
He was. He had his moments.
Apologize for that, and that's fine. It's kind of like what he's going to do with Tom at the reunion show.
Yeah.
You know, he can, like, I'm sorry my behavior was rambunctious or mean-spirited at times. You know, it's an emotional game. You can get the best of us sometimes, but I stand by all the moves I made.
Yes.
Boom. And who knows, maybe Alex, Alicia, or Tom, maybe that'll win him over. Maybe it won't.
Or Sheehan.
Or yeah, even Sheehan. Maybe it'll win one of them over, but what you're going to do isn't going to do it. Anyway, Kathy asks Rob if he is concerned with how he will be perceived and basically telling him how hurt she was and that there was a better way for him to play. Yeah.
She's basically saying what we've said is that, like, there's moves that you need to make to get to the end. Just handle it better.
Yep. And she's right. She's right.
I love the way she phrased it. She said there was a parallel path to this one that you could have taken, but you chose not to. And I think if I was asked this question and I was in Rob's shoes, I would say, yeah, absolutely. If I could go back, maybe I would try to walk that path. But I am here right now, which means now is not the time for me to second guess the moves that I made 2 weeks ago. I can't go back and change it. I can apologize for hurt feelings. I can buy you a beer afterward, but just lean into it. This is a common theme we're going to have and see with, it's Survivor, but this Tribal Council in particular.
You have to own your game.
Yeah.
If you can't own your game, you don't deserve to win. And then she asks Amber if she was playing Rob this whole time and if she'll continue to have a relationship with him. And Amber gives a very good answer, saying, like, I hope we do. Yes. Amber was good here. Alicia asked them both to describe their game in one word. Rob says competitive. Fine. Amber says luck. Not fine.
Not fine. Bad answer.
But Alicia's going to vote for Amber.
That just goes to show everyone how far gone Alicia was. And again, Alicia, sour grapes.
Sour grapes.
It's a game. You got.
Yep. Get over it. Sheehan gives the best jury speech. And give credit where credit is due. She's excellent here.
Oh, yeah.
She smack talks the jury and she's like, hey, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Lex. She doesn't actually say Lex, but she's talking about Lex.
I honestly thought it was Lex, Alicia, Kathy.
Yep. Yeah, even Kathy a bit. Yeah, absolutely.
Get off your high horse. If you could have cut throats and stabbed backs, you would have done it too. Stop it. Grow up. Stop whining.
Lex, you voted out Jerry.
This was probably the best, or not even probably, it was the best kind of question that came from any of the jury members. Gave a little bit more respect to Sheehan from me, and then she completely lost it by voting for Amber because I feel like she went against her own logic.
So to this day, Sheehan maintains that Amber was the true mastermind behind everything. She is either committed to the lie or she believes it.
And if she truly believes it, then sure, that's fine.
All I can say is she called her shot when she was voted out.
Yeah.
She called her shot then, and you know what? If she had her mind made up, and based on her jury speech, she wasn't angry at Rob at all. So in her mind, which again, who are we to tell Sheehan who was a better player? Especially when Rob and Amber basically played the same game, except at least Amber survived a BS tribe swap, which Rob did not do.
That's very true.
So, like, all I can say is Sheehan called her shot, and she stayed true to it, and I kind of respect that.
Sure. I can respect that, too.
I could totally see Sheehan only voting for Amber, though, because she called her shot, and she wanted to be right.
Hey, self-fulfilling prophecy is what it is.
Hey, if you can do that, do it.
It's part of Survivor.
Make yourself look better.
Tom asks why he should not vote for the other, and Amber says, Rob broke his word with you more than I did.
Terrible
answer. And Rob's like, you tried to get me out, so I tried to get you out. And Tom continues to deny he did it. And maybe that is true, but you were acting real sketchy, bud. You can't fault Rob for thinking that. And Tom does fault him for thinking that. And then he does the whole, it's all good, bud. Here's a handshake. Oh, psych! Don't be stupid.
There was a better answer for this, because we already talked about how Rob is basically fallen apart for this whole final tribal council, but for some reason, he gets back up in Tom's face for this moment. It's almost like he was down on the ground, he was beaten, he was crying, he was out, and then he tried to take one last swipe at Tom, saying, you and I both know the truth. He could have said something as simple as, the paranoia obviously got the best of me. I will never know if you were well-intentioned to maintain our alliance. I felt like I had a better shot going forward with Rupert. I believed was more loyal, had not been caught in any pregame alliances, and that was why I had to cut ties with you. If I am wrong, then that is something I have to live with, but I maintain that it was the right move for me at the time. So he didn't have to be confrontational about this. I don't know if this loses Tom's vote. I think Tom had his mind made up. But there's a better way to answer this.
I agree with you completely, Derek.
Yeah, I think that you really need to be a lot more specific too, just because like it just seems really sketchy when you say we both know like we both know what we're talking about here. And no, that gives no information to the jury. Like
Tell us.
to the jury, it even sounds like sketchy. It's like, oh wow, he's still like trying to play the game.
You could say, I thought you were coming for me. Your behavior was kind of weird, and if you were telling the truth, well, I will never know. I'll never know. But I thought you were coming for me, so I had to come for you. And if that wasn't the case, well, I'm sorry, but I think it was the case.
Easy enough.
But Rob's been just rattled by this point. So closing statements, Amber says, I learned a lot about myself during this tribal council, and I don't like some of it, but I'm going to grow from it.
Fine.
Whatever. Rob apologizes and says he played hard, but he just can't really form a sentence. He's like a punch drunk, basically, right now.
Yeah, and I have no issue apologizing directly to people. Like, sorry I did this, sorry I did that, whatever. But I do think that you need to own up a little bit.
Honestly, I think these are two of the worst Final Tribal Council performances we've had to date.
Honestly, I thought that Rob did really well to like start like that first statement. I'm like, ooh, this is gonna be good, just because I forgot about most of like what went on in the 5 years since I've watched this. It's almost pretty surprising that Amber didn't lose this here. If Rob would have performed better, I think that she could have lost it, unless everyone's minds were made up already, which is also probably possible. But if she loses it, I think we could probably say that this would have been the worst Final Tribal performance so far to date.
Last time we said Pearl Islands combined was the best Final Tribal Council between Sandra and Lil combined. Rob and Amber combined, this is the worst.
Yeah.
I think so. I think Australia is very close because I didn't even really like Tina's because they were both, Colby and Tina were both just softballing it back and forth to each other. I don't think that we get a new worst because, again, Colby said, don't vote for me.
It's going to be hard to beat Colby.
It's going to be hard to beat someone who actually says, don't vote for me. The closest that we have in this tribal council is Rob saying Amber does deserve to win, but that was in the nature of the question. Give me 3 reasons why the other person should win.
And Amber says, I got here because of Rob and luck. That doesn't help either.
Like, oof.
So I'm going to go ahead and put these two above Colby, but below everyone else. I think everyone else is better.
I think I am with you. I think these are 2 bottom 3 in the first 8 seasons.
Yeah.
I think it goes Colby, then probably Amber actually, and then Rob, and then maybe like Tina.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me.
So maybe those 2 are like tied, but it was bad.
Yeah, this is not a good Final Tribal performance.
I wonder if any of it had to do with like the fact that they probably felt really secure, just because it's like one of us is going to win the million. We're in a, it seems like pretty good relationship, so we're gonna be fine after this. So like maybe not preparing for it as much.
Sure.
Like we saw them like hang out on the beach and just say like I'm actually not too worried like about tribal. Like
should
what
be.
what happens will happen. And I think that they just didn't really prepare a whole lot for it. So who knows, maybe that could have something to do with it.
Could be. We're going to cut to New York City. Rob's going to propose to Amber. She's going to accept. And this is probably the best move of the season.
Lock it in.
Lock it in real quick.
Yeah, this was the moment where Rob stopped playing Survivor and started playing Deal or No Deal. He had $100,000 case and $1 million case, and he took the deal, Howie.
Yeah, but we got to be married. Yeah, the old ball and chain.
Deal, Howie.
Amber says yes, and then she wins 4-3. And Amber is the winner of Survivor All-Stars. The person I was least excited to see on this season is our winner. Hooray.
Hey, she made it though.
So the question is now, did the right person win? I'm very curious to see what you guys think.
No. When I watched this back in 2015, I was all on board with Rob. It helped that he was my winner pick, and leading up to Final Tribal, I thought that he definitely should have won. I was pretty confused, if I remember correctly, why Amber won, but I think I got over pretty fast. I'm just like, oh, okay, whatever. But it appeared like he made all the moves. I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but at least from what we were given, it appeared like he made all the moves. Yes, he broke some friendships, made some people mad, didn't do great with jury management, which is obviously really important. But we've said how many times so far on this podcast that drop him in a different season that's not All-Stars, and Rob probably should have won.
I'm with Josh. Far be it from me to tell jury members how they should cast their vote. Rob played a better game than Amber. He just happened to end up with a lot of really angry people on the jury. For anybody listening who ends up going on Survivor, you cannot play with reserve, being scared of a jury this bitter. It is possible that it will happen, and you probably won't end up marrying the person that you lose to. Every other season, Rob wins. And because I am so sure of that, I can say with conviction that Rob should have won this season as well.
You know, Derek, you're right. We can't tell juries how they should vote. All I could say is how I would have voted. I would have voted for Rob. He had the better strategic game, obviously the better physical game. Amber did have the better social game. I will give her that credit. I would have voted for Rob. I think Rob should have won. Another reason I'm not a big fan of All-Stars, it always leaves a sour taste in my mouth when I think the wrong person wins. And I do think the wrong person won here. Hooray. Survivor All-Stars, everybody.
You still have to give credit to Amber because she did play a good game. Like she said, like she got paired with Rob because that's what she wanted to do. She wanted to use him. Now, it turned into something completely different, but that was her game plan going in, and she executed on it. And from all accounts, she was at least part of the planning process the entire way, and she knew from the beginning that Rob was going to be the bad guy. So she knew what she was doing.
That is not a bad strategy by any means whatsoever, using someone else as like the bad cop to your good cop. It's not a bad move by any means, but I just feel like she didn't do enough to distinguish herself from Rob.
Yeah.
And it was more Rob lost the game than Amber won.
And here's the thing, under that scenario, you need to cut ties with that person so you don't accidentally seem like the person that got drug along at the end. So yes, if they weren't in a literal relationship on the island, one of the two of them would have been cut early and not made it to the final tribal side by side with each other.
Rob and Amber both finished the game, and both of them are going to compete again. So what do you guys think? Do you want to see Rob or Amber or both come back?
I mean, at this point, I think that I've seen enough of Amber. It'd be interesting. It really would be interesting to see what she does on her own without Rob, but I think we basically got that the first time around. So I am good without Amber again. Rob, bring him back. I kind of want to see how he does without being in like a power couple situation, and he's entertaining.
My opinion on Amber, it pretty much echoes Josh's. I don't really need to see her again. We already saw what she's like on her own, and now we got to see what she was like in a power couple situation with the most bitter jury I've ever seen. I'd have her back for an all-winner season, and even then, I guess I don't really need to see Amber play again. Rob, bring him back. I have a personal rule about people coming back for a third time and beyond, and for me, if you're coming back a third time, it's got to be pretty much legend status. I know that's subjective, and I know that I have my opinions about different people that we've talked about even this season. But Rob, I think he's done enough to cement himself in that legend status, at least in these first 8 seasons of Survivor. So if he were to be the first 3-time player or whatever, or what have you, I would absolutely say that he deserves to be. Happy to see him play again.
Yeah, absolutely bring Rob back. No question. Every day of the week, bring Rob back. Especially, he's probably learned a lot this season. So bring Rob back, hands down. Amber, my rule is if they're a winner, let them play again. Infinite. I just want to see it. I'm just curious to see how winners do over and over again, because that is such an interesting asterisk on their performance next time around. What can they do with it? Now, granted, the 8 winners we've had so far, the one I want to see play again the least is Amber. But technically a winner, so bring her back.
What's really interesting about Amber is because so many people probably think that she shouldn't have won, that you'd think would be some kind of armor for her coming in and being a winner and playing again.
Yeah, so if she were to play again, which we know she does, it'd be interesting to see what would happen if she played without Rob, because I feel like she could do extremely well without Rob. But playing with Rob, it's a big target. All right, so the reunion show kind of sucks because everyone's pissed off. The audience won't shut the hell up. It's super emotional and awkward. Jerry ends up leaving at one point. Lex does get called out by Jeff Probst, though, and Richard Hatch, and that's hilarious.
Yeah, it was actually really nice to get information from, especially, like, a really well-spoken Richard Hatch of just like, no, like, because of X, Y, and Z, you are a complete hypocrite. And it was just wonderful.
If only Richard didn't, sexually assault Sue.
Yeah, it'd make you feel a little bit better.
Feel a little bit better. He's so great in the reunion show.
And he could have been such a, I don't want to say like a replacement for Jeff someday, but you can tell that Richard loves this game and he gets it. He understands it. Every time a sour grape tried to speak up, he squashed it. He's like, Lex, you're wrong. Kathy, you're wrong.
Richard Hatch is the host of Survivor. That's a timeline. Interesting.
It cannot and should not happen after All Stars.
It won't. But let's remove that from the equation. Man, that could have been interesting. Let's start wrapping this up here. Let's go to best player of the season. And I'm going to kick us off here because I got a kind of a surprising taste. The best player of the season is Amber. And that's because she's the best player of this season. For Survivor All-Stars, she is the best player of the season because everyone else sucked except Rob. And Amber played that social game better than Rob did. Rob had a lot of mistakes in his game, especially with the social game. For this specific season, Amber is the best player. Though I do think Rob should have won, and I would have voted for her. But because of all the circumstances surrounding this game as a whole, I will say Amber's the best player of the season.
I disagree. I think that Rob was the best player of the season, and I think he lost because of all of the relationships he built outside of the game. He lost because he was good friends with Lex. If he would have gotten Lex's votes, he would have won, and he would have also played the best. I guess that's the only thing that I have to say. Rob is the best player, and he did not lose because of what he did on the island. I think take out him and Lex's friendship, and he wins.
Yeah, I have to agree with Derek. I think it's Rob. I get your take, but I think that if you would say that, I think that you would have to say that the right person won, and you didn't. So that's a little bit iffy on coming from you.
It'd be saying Vesepia was the best player in Marquesas because in that specific situation on that season with that jury with those people, Vesepia was the best player. I can't knock the answer because again, Rob and Amber basically played the same game, but she was good cop and he was bad cop. Mm-hmm. I just think that bad cop ended up playing better this time around.
And for all of Derek's reasons, yeah, I just think that he was better.
Sure. Worst player of the season, and just to remind everybody, we only count anybody who made the merge, so we only have 9 people. I'm going with Lex, because he is the one who took out Richard, who took out Colby, who took out Ethan, who took out Jerry, when he shouldn't have done really any of those things. Then he let Amber stay in the game. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. You vote out people who shouldn't be voted out, well, you got voted out. Lex shot himself in the foot, and almost everyone else in the foot with his actions, and Lex kind of destroyed this season.
Yeah, it's kind of the low-hanging fruit. I don't like to give worst player to the person who's voted out first at the merge. But, I mean, Lex, he had power in the pre-merge and played it all wrong. And he won a really stupid prize and ruined a friendship, at least for his part, in the process. And it's too bad, but I would have to agree that Lex is the worst.
Yeah, we're going 3 for 3 on this. If it wasn't for Lex, this entire game would have been different. The entire post-merge, I don't even know what we'd be talking about at this point.
Colby, Ethan, Jerry, final 3.
Yeah, I don't know if it necessarily changes the future of Survivor because Rob and Amber already kind of had a little bit of a relationship, so that could have kept going. But all of Survivor could have changed because of Lex making the right move at the time. And he didn't. So I think it's got to be him.
You know what? This goes back to what we were talking about in our pre-merge with Lex. Lex is the kind of player who can move the pieces, but he moves them all wrong. A truly legendary player can move the pieces and make the right moves. It takes someone special to be able to move the pieces. Like that, Lex is someone who, at his very core, has the potential to be a Survivor legend. But he is missing the entire foresight strategic aspect. So he's a truly unique player in that he can completely impact the entire future of Survivor by completely screwing it up.
Lex is one of a kind.
That is true. There's never been someone like Lex. So, Jeff Watch. We're done with the first All-Star seasons. Derek, any developments on the Jeff Watch front?
Really, nothing. I think we're basically at modern Jeff. I think season 9, I want to even start paying attention if we need to keep Jeff Watch on this rewind. I think he forgot to say, come on in, guys, one time this whole season. And I was, oh, that's weird. Why didn't, He is pretty much the Jeff we know and love, or for better or for worse. In all aspects at this point. You can tell he's been hosting the show for almost 5 years now.
Oh, yeah. How about a weather report?
I didn't keep track of how many days it rained, but let me tell you, a lot. And in fact, I am confident that it rained more on this season than every other season because it was the rainy season in Panama, and I swear every single episode it rained at least once.
I think this is in the conversation for hardest season physically.
I think it is too. Because
plus, they were not really given anything to start.
Yeah, they were given the machete to start. Fire was always a struggle. It was always raining. They had to move camps half a dozen times, which I think was really mean of production. It makes for okay TV, but if people are down in the dumps, you wonder why the strategy was so bad. It's because they were so miserable all the time. And then, of course, the bugs, just like in season 7, the bugs were also bad here.
Same location. So.
Exactly. I think this is probably pound for pound the hardest.
I think you're right.
So far, is the rainy season in Panama through 8 seasons is the worst.
And honestly, I don't think it'll get harder. I think we've peaked. I think this is probably the toughest season of Survivor.
There's other tough ones.
There's other tough ones, but I think we've got number 1, and I don't think we're going to lose it. We'll keep track of it, but,
Yep.
Yeah. So, Josh, you are our memorability expert.
Yes.
It's been a while since you watched this. Going back and thinking about the season again, you decide what is the most memorable moment of the season. Through the pre-merge, you had said it was Richard and Sue. Let's hope it doesn't stay that way, but it might. What is the most memorable moment of the season?
A couple of the finalists, other than what we got in the pre-merge, confrontation between Rob and Lex obviously stands out right from the beginning. And then it really comes down to what happened basically at the finale and the proposal. I think it has to be one of those 3 things. Unfortunately, I think it has to be Richard and Sue. It's not great, but it really is the thing that stands out. It sucks. It really sucks, but it's about on par for the season. So
yeah, that's true.
If it's going to be on a season, this one makes sense. But I will say that I think number 2 would definitely be the proposal at the end.
I think that's absolutely fair.
And from someone who had not seen any of this before, let me tell you what, Survivor currently, with all the flashbacks they do, is not scared to show you that proposal whenever they have an excuse to do it.
Yes.
Like, here's something from All Stars.
The one thing we can't talk about from All Stars. Hooray. All right, so the last thing we got to do is we got to put in the season rankings. I will go ahead and do mine. Starting from the top, Pearl Islands, Borneo, the Amazon, Africa, the Australian Outback, Marquesas, All Stars, then Thailand. So I'm going to put All Stars in second from the bottom.
I've had to think about this one quite a bit, and I stand by what I said, that this season, you talk down my expectations quite a bit. I think for you, Ryan, and I might be wrong on this, a lot of it is your expectations, because you watched this when you were young. I mean, you've described this as being like the Super Bowl, except 5 years in the making.
I think a better example, this is Game of Thrones Season 8.
Right.
This is All Stars, man.
Yeah.
Survivor Season 8.
Survivor Season 8.
Survivor Season 8.
Season 8.
As a season of Survivor that I was going back and watching, I mean, I already saw Winners at War, so I'm not shocked by these things happening. I put it third from the bottom, above Marquesas, above Thailand.
Okay.
But I do think it is perfectly average Survivor overall, with a lot of lessons on jury management.
So it is currently All Stars in 6th place for Derek.
So I finally started actually writing these down, because I'm going to start forgetting otherwise. Too many seasons. But catch people up. Mine is Pearl Islands, Amazon, Borneo, Australia, Africa, Marquesas, All Stars.
Okay.
Thailand. I know I definitely like this better than Ryan likes it, and it's definitely above Thailand. I actually debated for a while whether or not I should put it ahead of Marquesas, but I did end up putting it below. But I think those 2 are pretty close, and I think that there's actually a pretty large gap between All Stars and Thailand.
Okay. All right, so that wraps up Survivor All Stars. Finally, we're going to be moving on to Season 9, Vanuatu. I'm very excited. I like Vanuatu a lot. Derek knows very little about the season.
Ryan has told me that I will recognize one person on the season, and that is it. So this is another one where, 1, I don't know the winner. 2, I don't know anything. I don't even... Where did you say it was?
Vanuatu.
I don't even know where that is. So
Islands of Fire.
The Islands of Fire.
So I'm excited to have absolutely no spoilers really going into this, because I know one player, but you've also said I've not seen this person play.
Yep.
So this person, yeah,
they have a Twitter presence.
Yes, they're very well known on Twitter.
Yes.
And because I follow Survivor players, I inevitably see this person all the time.
Yeah, and I remember enjoying this season, but weirdly enough, I remember very little from it. Now, after we go through it, I'm sure there's going to be a ton of moments that actually come up that I remember, but just off the top of my head, I don't actually remember a whole lot from it.
I'm excited. I like this season a lot, so this will be fun. But yeah, that's about all we got. Anybody got anything else?
No.
I'm good.
All right, you can follow us on Twitter at Castaway Pod. Give us a follow and give us 5-star reviews, and we'll read them on the podcast. But until next time, this has been the Castaway Consultants.
Got nothing else for you.
Good night.